Hey everyone, I'm Katelyn Burns.
And I'm Christine Grimaldi.
And you're listening to Cancel Me Daddy,
the show where we take a closer look at all the panic around cancel culture.
With thoughtful analysis.
And verbal shitposting.
So Christine, who are we canceling today?
U.S. health insurance, Kate.
Gee, I wonder why.
Should we have multiple disclaimers with this episode?
Yeah, nothing in this episode can be construed as a credible threat. We're journalists analyzing a political system. Our views are our own, not affiliated, blah, 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 blah. So, having said that, let's delay, deny, and depose this episode, shall we?
This is not a threat.
So, Christine.
Hi.
Are you ready for the holidays?
I'm so ready.
Yeah.
I'm mostly ready to not work in between the holidays and the new year, if I'm being completely honest.
That is true, although I think I'm going to be doing a lot of work in that time period, so...
A freelancer's work is never done.
That is true. That is true. I've also been no-lifing this game called Marvel Rivals.
Oh, tell me about it.
It's basically Overwatch, but with Marvel, like, comic book and movie characters.
Cool.
It's been really funny because I've reconnected with, like, my old, like, sweaty-ass Overwatch, like, competitive friends, and it's the broiest environment that I've been in a while. And it's brought out this thing in me. Okay. As a rule, I don't say the word bitch. Like, I don't call people bitches. Like, I don't react by saying bitch, except when I'm playing these games and I kill somebody who's been really annoying to me. And then I'm like, bitch?
I think that has a different connotation. That's like a more inclusive version of the word.
I know, but it has me like questioning my feminism, you know? It's like, do I have internalized misogyny, but only for the annoying little trolls trying to kill me in video games? I don't know.
Do you get into character for the game?
No, but it's been fun. It's a brand new game. The system tells me I'm in the top 4% of the player base, according to my rank. So it's been really fun to hop on. I haven't actually been on a ranked hero shooter like that from day one before. Like, I was late to Overwatch, I was late to Valorant, I was late to Apex Legends, and some of you know what I'm talking about when I say those words, and some of you will not, and that's okay. We're glad you're here.
You know, the last video game I played with regularity was Sonic the Hedgehog in elementary school. And I loved it. I think that's why I actually stopped playing video games, because even at that young age, I knew this would not go well for me. It would just be hours and hours of my life. Those little rings were like so intoxicating.
It's true. Speaking of video games...
What a segue.
We actually don't have a guest today. It's just Christine and I. So we're just going to roll right into the B segment, as we sometimes call it in the biz. Actually, technically it's the A segment, right? Because we just did finish the intro. But we're going to be talking about Luigi Mangione. Do you want to try it better because you're Italian?
Luigi Mangione.
There we go. He, of course, is the young man who was arrested for allegedly shooting UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson in New York City, which is widely publicized. But the reason why we wanted to talk about this was the murder itself had sort of a perhaps unexpected in a lot of ways reaction from the general internet, right? Like, this show is generally about internet stuff, whether it's journalism, whether it's social media, whatnot. And I found this really interesting. And also, Christine is Italian, and
which makes me a Luigi Mangione expert.
Exactly.
In terms of Italianness, not in terms of alleged murder.
I said, speaking of video games, because NBC had the most bizarre piece on this I think I've ever seen. And I didn't plan on leading with this, but we sort of were talking about video games. So I was like, okay, this is the segue.
I really thought you were going to Mario and Luigi, to be honest.
Well, yeah, there is that. Wait, that's even better. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, so obviously he has a brother named Mario who is shorter and more rotund, but we'll save the princess in the end. So I don't know. But NBC had this piece where they were like, Luigi Mangione played an assassin in a video game with his college friends, according to people who knew him in college. And it was like breathless reporting, like, oh, this guy, he's been bred into a menace by video games. It's like the old 2000s, late 90s panic over violence in video games rearing its ugly head again. And the game is Among Us.
I am not familiar with Among Us. As you know, my video game knowledge lapses after Sonic the Hedgehog.
Let me send you.
You know, it always comes back to video games. Like, I feel like we're just reliving the Columbine myths all over instead of, this country's, instead of giving you healthcare, like give you a gun.
Okay. So this is the default character in Among Us. I'm going to send this link to you, and I want to get your live reaction to the first time ever seeing this. This is the main character in the Assassin video game that allegedly...
I don't even know. Is it an animal? Is it a...
No.
Is it a scuba guy? Is
Closer?
It's not something scary. It's not something that like really gives, like, it's not giving murder.
No, it doesn't give murder. No, there are many games that give murder much better than this. So he is a space guy. He works on a space station. This little red guy. I sent her a picture of the iconic red Among Us guy. You and your friends are all crewmates on this spaceship, and you all have tasks to do. And 2 people are assigned as the imposter. 1 or 2 people, usually 2. And the imposter tries to kill everybody or get people to not complete their tasks on time. And if they succeed in killing enough people, the imposters win. And if they discover the imposters, the crewmates win. It's a whole thing.
This doesn't even sound like the mythical or the myth making of violent video games.
It's not really a violent video game. Like, my kids played it in 2020, like when my daughter was 11. It's certainly not the game that I would think of when it comes to like playing an assassin. I mean, there's a whole Assassin's Creed line of video games, which I'm sure he also played because he's of that age, where you're literally an assassin, like a human assassin in a bunch of different worlds. So it was really funny watching this NBC reporter just be like, I have the scoop. This guy played Among Us. And I'm like, oh, dear honey, no.
The evolution of the media discourse and also the media coverage has been really interesting to watch. Yeah. Because even the day of, I remember against my better judgment opening up the New York Times, and I was actually impressed that maybe it's like the second or third graph of maybe their live coverage, maybe just like a spot obituary that they were able to write. In the very, top of the story, they were talking about all of the, issues with UnitedHealthcare and the larger issues of healthcare. And we have certainly seemed to pivot away from that to NBC grasping at, I don't know, like a space cowboy or something. And like the New York Times now publishing something from the CEO of like the parent company.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to watch like the general reaction. Like, I haven't seen something unite both the left and right of this country like this did, right? Like, leftists and right wingers were basically of one mind about the whole thing. It was perhaps the best demonstration of horseshoe theory that I've seen so far, although I don't think horseshoe theory really applies. But like, it just goes to show you that everybody has terrible experiences with their insurance company, you and I included. There's something there that I think deeply scared the owner class, basically. In fact, I was watching... I haven't watched him much lately since the election, but I did see a segment on YouTube from one of Hassan Piker's streams where he was watching a Ben Shapiro video for the Daily Wire, and Ben was like trying to pin all of the like social media support for the killer on the left, and the comments were just full of people in his own audience going, "It's not the left. It's not the left, Ben. It's all of us." Like, hardened right wingers going, "Well, I guess I'm on the left then." Like, so it was really bizarre to watch like both wings kind of unite on this. And I think there's a lesson in politics here too, that, not to relitigate 2016 again, but like,
oh, we will always be trapped there.
I think it shows that Bernie Sanders did have a point with like how people are disillusioned with parts of our system now. And even if you were a Hillary supporter back then, like, I think you can acknowledge that he made some good points, especially on the healthcare front. I was officially Switzerland in that race, so please don't at me.
I remember writing some stories after the election. So Trump was president for the first time, but I was writing stories about, the Medicare for All proposals, Bernie Sanders, obviously, in the Senate. And it was a John Conyers bill and then became a Pramila Jayapal bill in the House. And the interesting thing about it, and something we were talking about, kind of before we started recording, is that if you do have Medicare for All or, single payer healthcare, which would be so great to have a guarantee, to know that we all, just have this basic human right to be taken care of in this society, and that society will take care of us. There are still other parts of the system that could almost get codified and expanded, like the negative parts. So, there's the restriction on abortion in federally funded government-sponsored healthcare, like whether that's Medicare or Medicaid or what have you. And so if you have a Medicare for All bill, you have to deal with that first, right? You have to make sure that abortion is something that everyone can access, or you inadvertently expand it to the entire country, that restriction. And the same applies, like what you were talking about, with gender-affirming care too.
Yeah, I think if we had a single payer system right now, it would be even more scary times to be trans right now, because I think it would be even easier for Republicans to ban our healthcare. I think they're probably going to end up banning it successfully regardless of the system that we have in place. But I do think that one of the vanguards that trans people do have right now is this shitty private health insurance system that we have, where, like, at least right now, it's a corporation's choice whether to provide our care. And actually the math in most cases works out in our favor, where if you're looking at like a lifetime of covering, antidepressants and covering mental health, appointments versus just letting somebody transition and being over with all of that, they would rather us transition because it's more affordable. Like, studies have shown that. So it is really frustrating to be like so dependent on this evil, fucking awful, shitty system where, UnitedHealthcare is denying 30+% of their claims.
Well, UnitedHealthcare is my insurer, Kate, and we've had a hell of a year fighting them for reimbursements.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
Yeah, so your ombudsman's had a rough year, and I decided to find some new mental health care providers along with my longtime therapist. And not only did UnitedHealthcare come back and ask me for records to support, the new provider, they seen my therapist for 6 years. They wanted my notes from my therapist from individual sessions. It's so creepy and gross. Why do you need that? Why do you need that? I'm just seeking care that you've reimbursed without any sort of complaint or problem for the past 6 years. So it kind of spiraled, and it's ongoing. I was able to kind of claw back that, like those requests for records. But the interesting thing was, at one point, I thought that the records requests were over, and a United representative said, no, that was a one-time business decision.
Holy crap.
And there's nothing like feeling like your healthcare is a business decision. It was just, ugh. So yeah, it was hard to see that news happen and not feel like I don't know, carried away, not in a violent way, but just really, we're all part of this. Like you said, it's a great unifier in some ways of this fucked up country.
I mean, there were definitely some like lame as vibes going on.
How so?
I say this as, one of those pretentious people who's never actually seen Les Mis in any form. So only being aware of like the history that it's based on. But it did feel a little bit like a populist uprising against power. And you see now that so many people are panicking about that, which I want to get to later. I don't want to jump into that quite yet. You mentioned that your insurer is United. I don't have United. I actually have like a New England brand that sells on the Massachusetts exchange here, Harvard Pilgrim, who for the most part is pretty good, but very expensive. And, it used to be when I first became a freelancer, I could get an Obamacare plan for, I think my first year was $170 a month. And I think I'm going to be pushing 500 now. And that's,
oh my God, really?
That's over 8 years. So like it's not getting any cheaper, right? And that's my chief complaint. And then the other thing that I have is, for the most part, I've had decent experiences with health insurance companies, but I am one of these people who like doesn't really go to the doctor unless I'm dying, because going to the doctor while you're trans is awful. So back when I got like all of my gender affirming surgeries, I crammed them into one calendar year so that I only had to pay one deductible.
Oh, I remember that because I was on your calendar.
So like it's when I was working at Rewire. Oh, you brought me that soup, right? The matzo ball soup.
I think that was matzo ball soup season.
Of all the food that people brought me, that was my favorite.
Oh, gender affirming matzo ball soup for everyone.
But like I got facial feminization surgery in the summertime, and then I got bottom surgery literally over Christmas. And I checked out of the hospital on the 30th so that there wouldn't be any other charges in the new year. And it was terrible. I never want to do that again. I mean, I won't have to. It was too much of my body. I also, like the bottom surgery part, I ended up rushing into. I went to perhaps a less experienced surgeon because I had a shorter wait list that could see me and accommodate my timeline. And then I needed a couple of revisions, and one of the revisions was botched by that same surgeon, and a more senior surgeon had to fix it, which thankfully they did for free, but it like put a lot of pressure on me, all because I wanted to save $5,000. Like I could get 2 surgeries for $5,000, or I could get 2 surgeries for $10,000. Which one are you going to do?
Well, and those numbers are rounding errors to these companies.
Yeah.
And yet they just like try to claw back every $5,000 or $10,000 that they can.
Yeah. And then there was like a billing issue. So I got a surprise $5,000 bill for that deductible like 2 years later.
Did you end up having to pay that?
Yeah, I did.
Oh my God.
I actually think I crowdfunded that on Twitter because I was out of my job at that point.
Yeah, I think I do remember that.
And I was pissed. And the people back then who followed me were pissed for me that like 2 years later you get a bill. What the fuck is that? It shouldn't be my issue. I mean, obviously it was money that I owed, but like they didn't catch it for 2 years.
Yeah, that's like a oops, sorry.
It's like I feel like they should just give it to me like as a oh, you got us. And it was a pain in the ass too because I got the job at Rewire at that time, and I was still in my Obamacare plan, and all of it was scheduled under Obamacare. And I couldn't go on the Rewire insurance until after bottom surgery. And I remember like they were kind of mad at me. And I was like, well, if I sign up for a new insurance plan, I have to do another deductible. And I had to pay for the premiums.
Wait, you were still paying for the premiums?
Yeah.
Even though you weren't on the plan?
No, I was paying for my own private insurance, my Obamacare premiums.
Okay.
I didn't have to pay the Rewire insurance premiums, but like it was significant. The premiums were significantly cheaper, obviously through an employer than
right. But then you have to meet that deductible.
Like, it was such a pain in the ass. And why do we do it this way?
Oh, when I was at Rewire, remember in our sliding doors lives before you, that was the insurance I had when my red mask debacle occurred.
Yes. Yeah. I know we've mentioned it a few times, but Christine's piece with the fly trap, the red mask went up your ass is so good.
Thanks. Thank you, Kate.
We're doing like our favorite pieces of the year for fly trap. I don't know. Are we allowed to nominate a fly trap piece? Because yours was probably my favorite of the year.
Oh, Kate. I'll hug you through the screen. I also, like, when I wrote it, I thought it was prescient because of abortion and because of, what's going to come in 2025, unfortunately. But I really didn't realize the resonance with health insurance and kind of this collective, like you said, uprising, at least in terms of, everybody talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
Until after it had published.
Yeah.
And it was kind of amazing to see that, like, that everybody had a story. Yeah. And like you said, left, right, and, shithead center.
Yeah. And I don't want to bring it back to politics, but if you're a Democrat right now and you're not trying to take advantage of this, you're fucking useless.
Take advantage of what?
The populist sentiment now.
Oh, actually campaign on it? Yeah. Well, they're incapable of campaigning on anything that would help them.
They get so many dollars from those people. Literally just before we signed on to record, Ken Klippenstein posted a story that he took, I think, from CNN about how New York State is considering opening a special hotline just for CEO safety concerns.
Oh my God.
So, like, we've had this broken ass fucking healthcare system for 100 years.
Mm-hmm. The Democrats beg us to vote for them.
And the Democrats beg us to vote for them. And once the healthcare system has killed people on purpose through denying claims in the thousands, tens of thousands, probably more than that. If you look at our whole history of 100 years, probably in the hundreds of thousands of people have been killed by either not having insurance, not being able to access healthcare, not being able to afford healthcare, or just straight up insurance denials. Like, all of the corporate value of UnitedHealthcare and everybody else like them is built on the backs of these dead people that were too expensive to maintain. And one CEO gets killed, and all of a sudden the fucking governor of New York is like, let's set up a hotline for any C-suite executives who might feel threatened. And it's like, it tells you the whole game right there. Like, that's what the system is designed to protect, is those people at the top. It's not designed to protect you and I.
Earlier this year, I needed a CT scan too, separate from my mental health issues. I was just in some really significant pain, and we tried to get the pre-authorization and they denied it. They being UnitedHealthcare. Yeah. And I remember we just kept calling, my spouse and I, and calling. And at one point I had this woman on the phone. And I was like, well, I don't remember if she or someone else had said, well, if you're in so much distress, you could go to the ER. The ER is a much higher copay and it's going to be more expensive for the company, to be quite honest. So it was kind of mind boggling. Plus you're really not going to get, maybe somebody with the specialty looking at the scans afterwards. And I remember trying to appeal to her humanity and just saying something to the effect of, what if this was like you or somebody you loved? And just almost like in a good way, my spouse just kind of like patting me on the shoulder and also saying, they record these calls. I think he was, not so wrong. afraid that like I was just going to like lose my shit. But I was really, it wasn't just like this episode's title. It wasn't a threat. It was me just really trying to get through to this person who is not getting it. And look, like, I know that whether it's healthcare or whatever other system in this country, like we're all complicit in ways, right? Like, but this is healthcare. I don't know what happens when you work for these companies. Like if they just like smother it out of you, it's wild. And then there's a big difference between, you know, somebody answering the phone and then somebody who's making like multi-million dollars running the thing who could like actually fix it.
I mean, they pay these phone operators pennies.
Right.
And they have the job because they're desperate for it, not because they grew up as a little kid dreaming of being a phone operator.
Right. And I'm trying to hold space for all of that and then also be in pain. It's wild.
Yeah. So these CEOs pay these people to like bear the brunt of their decisions from public reaction. Last week, you had the woman in Florida, Brianna Boston, who's 42 years old. She was arrested on terrorism charges for saying she used Luigi's line. Well, not line, but like there were words scratched into his bullet casings, his shell casings, saying delay, deny, depose. And there's probably a bunch of other words on other shell casings that weren't found. But the woman in Florida, Brianna Boston, was on the phone with her insurance company. And she lost her temper and she said, delay, deny, depose, you people are next. And they arrested her. They're charging her with terrorism. Terrorism.
That is so fucked up.
I remember when terrorism was reserved for like hijacking a plane or like trying to blow up a building. And now it's being used to charge people for getting angry on the phone over a dumbass insurance company.
No, it's moved to what we were also talking about before we started recording, this suppression of free speech all of a sudden.
Yes.
When it comes to folks either taking to social media to share their experiences or even, you know, participate in the discourse about our favorite internet boyfriend and folk hero. Or
are you talking about Luigi?
I am talking about Luigi. Some of the photos that you sent.
He's really hot.
He really is. Oh my God. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm fanning myself. Nobody can see except for Kate. Yeah, like it's moved now to the suppression of free speech. So like whether it's social media or whether, you know, you're on the phone, it just seems like that's where we're shifting now. We're shifting to like what you said with the kind of the ruling or the ownership class, and the media is a part of that. And the mainstream journalism is a part of that. Independent
journalist Marissa Cabas tweeted a photo of Mangione at like a family, I'm assuming, holiday gathering.
I bet it was a Feast of the Seven Fishes if I had to guess.
Listen, I just have one question for you. Is it normal for Italian families to have 50 family members in the same room for a photo?
Correct. Yes. That's every Christmas Eve of my childhood. Yep.
So it's one of those type of pictures, and he happens to be related to Maryland State Rep Nino Mangione.
I can't even take that name seriously.
We should do an ad-libs of Italian names with Mangione as the last name.
Oh, that would be fun.
She posted this picture on Blue Sky. Ski did this picture, excuse me. Like his attorney, like she got contacted by a crisis management team and was threatened legally until she took the picture down.
Oh, wow. Did she write about this?
I don't know if she's written about it. She's certainly skeeted about it. I'll include a link to one of the skeets in our show notes. This is another expression of power. Like it's this guy who's clearly embarrassed to be related to this shooter for his own career, and he's not even like showing solidarity with his family member. I know like it's hard when you have a murderer in the family, but like threatening random internet people who shared a photo of you with your family member who happened to commit a crime is beyond the pale.
I don't think I've ever heard of something like that before.
Like they argued that it wasn't newsworthy, but it's like, dude, like you are an elected official.
Yeah.
In a photo with the previously most wanted person in a nationwide manhunt. everything about your life is actually newsworthy at this point.
In fact, it makes more sense than sometimes, that when, news broadcasts will show photos of, alleged murderers with their family members, but, blur out the family members' faces like this.
Yeah. And she offered to do that. And they were like, no, it has to come down completely.
But he's an elected official. Like, sorry, dude, that's not just fair game. It's part of the story.
You know what, Nino, if you didn't want this to happen, you could have helped fix the healthcare system.
You could have. There are no good Ninos. Maybe that's why I laughed, because there's Nino Scalia. That was probably the last time I heard that name. Yeah. And that's what Ruth Bader Ginsburg used to call him, Nino, God, which is, that complicated woman. And then, Nino Sarratore from My Brilliant Friend is the literary douchebag of all time. And now there's this Nino Mangione, who sounds like a real paisano of shame. We can link to that in the show notes.
Are you adding him to your paisano of shame?
I think so. Yes. Everyone, I wrote a story a few years ago, which prompted a near and dear family member to ask if I was actually proud to be Italian. I was like, yeah, because I've discovered people who are not like this. But I called cringeworthy Italian Americans like Giuliani and then a bunch of people in the Trump administration, paisano of shame. So if you abbreviate that, it's POS.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. It's a shining time in my life.
Okay. I just have one question for you, Christine. Mm-hmm. Is Luigi Mangione a better Italian than Christopher Columbus?
Yes. And also, it's a trick question. Because Christopher Columbus wasn't even Italian. That shitbag was born like 200-300 years before Italy became a country in 1861.
He was Genoese. He was not Italian.
Yes.
He was a fucking merchant.
And this is why we should all, as Italian Americans, stop celebrating Columbus Day as well, in addition to the genocide. But, no one listens.
Aren't most Italian Americans from southern Italy anyway, which is not anywhere close to Genoa? Okay.
Correct.
See how smart I know things.
You are. And you also know your world history. You also know a lot of New England history and U.S. Revolution stuff.
Yeah. We have a running bit in my family because I had a family member that took part in Daniel Shays Rebellion.
Oh.
And there's a Daniel Shays highway nearby me where I live. Not to dox myself, but we have to drive on Daniel Shays highway when I drive my kids to my house. And my kids just roll their eyes now when I'm like, oh, look, we're on Daniel Shays highway. Did you know?
Wow, that's such a parent joke. I can't wait till my kiddo is a little older and can really get into those and roll her eyes at me.
The best was Thanksgiving last year. We rented a house in the Berkshires with my family and my cousin and my kids. And there was a plaque that said something about Daniel Shays Rebellion down the street. And my mom went to the kids and was telling them about this plaque, and I was like, we should take a walk. Did you know that we had a relative? And my daughter just screamed. My older daughter just screamed, yes, I know.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
It was so funny. It's still a bit to this day in our family.
You said it earlier in the pod, you didn't want to get to something yet. We'll get to it later.
I think it was Marissa's thing.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe it was the suppression of free speech.
Yeah. We're seeing it now, right? Look at how people in power are reacting to this incident. You have the governor of New York coming out and creating a concierge safety line where you can reach some higher up in New York law enforcement. If you're a CEO and you get threatened, is that available to the rest of us? No, it isn't. You have, this state senator from Maryland, legally threatening an independent journalist who literally cannot afford to fight back. You have, the CEI of UnitedHealthcare Group, who is Brian Thompson's boss. Giving a eulogy apologia in the New York Times, not taking any responsibility whatsoever.
Yeah, so much for the New York Times actually having some thoughtful coverage at the beginning.
You made a note in our show notes. I think this is the point you wanted to make, but I kind of want to try to make the point.
Please do.
You quoted, "It's why he fought for preventative health and quality health outcomes rather than simply adding more tests, ever more tests and procedures." But it's like, if you're the CEO, do you really fight for something? Like, you're the CEO, you can decide, man. Like, that's your job. Like, executive means decisions. You can make that decision if you would like to. You don't have to fight for it. You can just do it, man.
Yeah.
It's like when Joe Biden is like, "Oh, we're doing everything we can to cancel student loans." And it's like, dude, you're the president. Just do it.
Just do it. Well, and that's the thing. When Trump was president, he just did it.
Yeah.
And he did it over and over, and he did do it again. So, like, just fucking do it, man. Oh my God.
You get one lady who gets angry on the phone, and now she's being charged with terrorism. Like, it's an inordinate backlash to this reaction that I think a lot of people had on social media. And we're not condoning murder. Like, we're not celebrating murder, but like, I kind of get it.
I get it too in the context of all of this.
And I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner. I saw something the other day. There's this security company that is trying to sell like a drone surveillance system to CEOs for like private protection.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And like, one line in the article was like, "Well, can the drones kill an intruder?" And like, and the executives of this company is like, "Not yet." And it's like, oh, fuck. But they, like, the name of the product is Sauron, like the Eye of Sauron from the Lord of the Rings.
You were right about these tech bros. Like,
I told you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to read The Rings.
When you read the Lord of the Rings, we're doing an episode. This is my promise to our audience, and I'm putting it out there now so Christine can't back out of it
That's
later.
right. I have to read The Rings now. That's happening, everyone.
After you read the Lord of the Rings, we're going to have an episode about all of the evil tech bros that have named just a horrifically evil object about something related to the Lord of the Rings.
And yet they don't live up to the Rings values, from what I understand about Tolkien from you.
No. I mean, you name your system Sauron. Like, Sauron was the evil big bad. Like, you like,
that's like a cell phone.
It is a cell phone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not a cell phone, a cell phone.
A cell phone. We must enunciate on the podcast.
So yeah, it's been really interesting to see all of this. And yeah, maybe I got a little on my soapbox today, but it makes me mad. This shit makes me mad, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to end on a lighter note.
Okay.
If we could go back, what is your favorite Luigi Mangione meme or skeet, if you will?
Yeah, it's got to be the Among Us thing. I'm still thinking about it like a week later.
Well, and mine is a reductress post on Instagram. Man engages in beautiful Italian-American tradition of taking matters into his own hands.
Good Lord.
I mean, and he is shirtless wearing what seems to be a gold chain. So there you have it.
Lots of thirst for this guy. This is like the first like celebrity murderer that I kind of understand the thirst for.
Oh, God, there was some meme about... this is so dark. They put like Luigi Mangione's face next to Kyle Rittenhouse's, and it was like, this is what ours looks like. Like our murderers. Alleged.
I'm just looking at the Instagram replies to this reductress meme that you sent. And this person says, "Stop riding his dick, it hurts his back."
That's incredible. Well, an eggplant, eggplant parmesan.
Uh-huh.
An Italian dish, yes.
Do they have eggplants in Italy?
Yeah, I'm sure it was a New World thing that Christopher Columbus stole during genocide.
Should I ever tell you one of my pet peeves is when they put potatoes in a medieval fantasy setting?
No. Is that like in video games?
No, just like in general. Like, there's potatoes in the Lord of the Rings, even though the Lord of the Rings is supposedly like a medieval European fantasy. It's like, no, potatoes were from Peru, man.
Yeah.
greatest invention of all time. We're really leaning into like our ethnicities on this episode. Like you cracking the Italian jokes, and I'm praising potatoes like a good little Irish girl. Mm-hmm. We're definitely getting canceled for this.
Oh my God.
So Christine, what do you got for your Ombudsman corner?
Blue Sky. You know, that social media platform we were largely praising 2 episodes ago.
I think it was literally the last episode.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I think that
vaguely talk about it.
Vaguely, yeah. We're gonna vague book this one.
Yeah.
Blue Sky does not seem to be living up to its terms of service at the moment, and is allowing transphobes who are known for harassment both on social media and offline to be on it. I don't know. It's easy for me to say this perhaps because I'm cis, but I haven't given up on it yet. I don't like what I'm seeing, and it makes me very nervous about where we're going.
I have no comment.
Yes, that is why I am commenting instead.
Once again, your Ombudsman's Corner is
a production of your
the opinion of one Christine Grimaldi.
Yes. I will probably in the show notes link to Ben Smith's, or rather reactions to Ben Smith's commentary on Blue Sky and on this kind of situation that's ongoing. Because this is not actually the like cancel Ben Smith corner, but this is the second time I've talked about his like asinine media criticism in the past like month or 2 since I've been on this podcast.
I mean, if Ben Smith has an issue with something sources are telling him, he should just go fuck them. Correct.
Because that is not a conflict of interest.
Of course, alluding to our Olivia Nuzzi, sorry.
We've had so many Italian highlights on this podcast. It's excellent.
We need to balance it out with some Irish people.
Okay, yeah, let's
find some Irish corruption somewhere.
That shouldn't be too hard to find.
Listen, I'll look around Boston. There's got to be something.
Yeah, although we love you, Irish feminists. Like, shout out to you.
Oh yeah, you know they're the goats.
Yeah, they are. Abortion and gender affirming. We love you.
And with that, I'm calling it there. I'm tired. It's time to stop recording. Cancel Me Daddy is a Flytrap Media production, and today's show was made by me, Katelyn Burns, and my incredible co-host, Christine Grimaldi, along with our amazing editor, Maria Paleologos.
Dee Peterschmidt made our theme song, and Eden MW designed our graphics. Ads by Multitude Productions.
Our show is made possible by the incredible cancelers supporting our work, especially the members of our Canceler Hall of Fame, with the great power to cancel all of their enemies. Meg!
We appreciate your support.
Happy canceling!